Well, hey everyone. Today I'm going to be interacting with a video that has to do with the question of, are Christians bigoted?
If they're religious and they believe homosexuality is a sin, that's not bigoted.
Wait, yes, it is. That is.
Religion is bigoted? Religious people are bigoted?
Religious beliefs that homosexuality is a sin is absolutely bigoted.
So how, like, all Catholics are bigoted?
If you believe that homosexuality is a sin, that belief is bigoted.
So a couple things on this with the woman at the top with Jedediah. I don't know what her religious affiliation is. She's clearly the one in the clip that's looking to defend religious people and say religious people are not bigoted because of believing that homosexuality is a sin, while the other guy is saying yes, they are. There's a couple challenges within this because we're not talking about innate characteristics. When we're talking about being bigoted, we're usually talking about race because you're just born with your race. Maybe we're talking about sex because you're born as a man or a woman. You could be talking about ethnicity. You could be, people aren't usually bigoted over people for height, but we're usually talking about things like that, things that you can't do anything about. First of all, we're talking about religion, which is chosen. It's a set of beliefs that you choose. So you absolutely could have a religious belief that is bigoted. That is absolutely possible. And it's not an excuse just to say, that's my religion. On the other hand, when we're talking about, at least from a Christian standpoint, when we're talking about homosexual actions, we're talking about chosen actions. We're not even necessarily getting into the question of sort of orientation or inclination and that debate. We're talking about action. So as a believer, we're talking about actions, what somebody chooses to do sexually with their body. So on the one, we're talking about two things that are both choices. So absolutely, religious people absolutely could have a bigoted belief. I think the problem with Jedediah is that she's talking about it as if sort of like, you're just religious by how you're born, and so how could they be bigoted by just happening to be religious? You could, and I think that she sort of seeds the ground here and puts the other guy on the ground that he can have. He can win the debate. He can win the debate because you can choose to adopt the beliefs that you choose to adopt.
So people who believe in the Bible, they're all bigoted? That's silly. I mean, listen, there are people who believe that. A lot of the population is religious and holds. I personally don't.
And who's the least accepting of gay people? It's the white evangelicals.
But
U.S. Muslims. U.S. Muslims are more accepting of gay people in this country.
That's how religious people feel about homosexuality.
And that's wrong. That's incorrect.
Well, it's not up to you to judge that, though.
Wait.
It's not up to you to judge that.
How are they determining that it's wrong?
Listen, it's not up to you to define for them how they feel about behavior. It's not up to them to define for you. But
facts don't care. Wait, facts don't care about your feelings.
But it's not. But it's.
Yeah, this is unfortunately somebody that I think is trying to defend. There's a lot as Christians. I think a lot of us are like, hey, we're sympathetic towards Jedediah. She's looking to defend us. With respect, she's not doing it well. I think that she doesn't really understand the issue going on here, because she's talking as the terminology that she's using. But who are you to judge how they feel about this? It's really not about how we feel about this. Different Christians may feel very different things about people that identify as gay and people that partake in homosexual behavior. There's a number of different things that we might feel on it. The idea is not that we feel a certain way. The idea is that we believe that God has spoken and we're going with him on this. And so that affects a whole range of areas. I mean, how we spend our money, how we function sexually, how we deal with marriage, how we deal with children, how we deal with the government. All kinds of areas of life. So obviously they're zeroed in on the question of homosexuality. But what we believe about what God has said goes into a whole bunch of areas of life where we say we are trusting God on this. We are trusting his word on this. And we're trusting that he's good because he sent his son to pay the price for our sins. So we don't think that he's a God who's holding out on us or trying to create chaos. We believe that there's a God who knows us deeply and is looking to help create order and joy and thriving in real life. So all of that is bound up in the subject. And the hard thing is that I think Jedediah, if I'm going to make a guess, I think she probably wants to hold the ground to say, hey, I got no problem with anyone. I got no problem with anyone, gay, straight, whatever. I have no problem with anyone. But I also want to defend Christians who believe that homosexual behavior is wrong, and I want to defend their right to believe this, even though I disagree with it, and that they can't be bigoted for believing it. So here's the deal. If we are wrong on this, then maybe we are bigoted. Then maybe we are bigoted if we're wrong on this. Now, it's a little bit different because we're talking about behavior, which is a choice. We're not talking about the question of orientation. That's something that can be debated. But we're talking about behavior, and that's something that you choose to do. So in the same way that you'd say, well, you're bigoted against people that rob casinos, nobody would get on board with that. Everybody would be like, that's silly. That's something that you choose to do. What we do sexually is something that we choose to do. And so the ground of this debate is all wrong. And I think as Christians, we need to make sure we don't fall for this. I've actually heard some Christians sort of advocating for the idea that because there's a lot of progressives that are saying sort of like, hey, you're not allowed to judge my identity, and being gay is my identity, that Christians have the rejoinder to say, well, being Christian is my identity, so who are you to judge my identity? I want to say I think that's a terrible argument. I think that is utterly seeding the ground that these things that we choose about ourselves are things that can't be criticized. And I think that that's a wrong way to go about it, and why, even though most of us would probably want to be on Jedediah's side, she did not win this debate. She got beat on this debate because the debate was on the ground of the other guy who was able to win the debate on his ground.